Hey
Hilarious.
Peter, how you going?
Doing good. Doing good.
Awesome. Yeah, it wasn't that tough.
No, and not even for a 56-year-old.
You're right on it.
I felt really good when my 24-year-old was struggling with it. So
Yeah,
that's good.
I just figured this out on Monday basically, so it's sort of a learning process.
Yeah, I've watched a couple this week. It's pretty interesting.
It's been good. Hey man, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate being able to talk to you.
Anytime I can. I love talking. I love groups. This is a little different group, but
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
People will jump in with questions, so feel free. I got to see you present at the San Diego convention recently, and I just got to say that was a really great presentation. We all enjoyed it.
well, I think it's important that whenever you speak from the heart, and I like to be real. And sometimes you can be real, but you try and always have that balance of using your heart and being real.
Yeah, that was a really awesome presentation. Man, so I want to get into it. I got so many things to ask you, and I think that the first one that I wanted to ask you was about UTR and how that's changed sort of the game for recruiting and for coaches. But what are the intangibles that you look for in a player? All things
Well,
being equal.
I think that's two very different questions. I mean, UTR has kind of taken all the rankings and put them together. So, even as soon as 10 years ago, you could have a kid that didn't maybe have a good USDA ranking, but maybe they were playing more ITFs or wasn't even doing either, but was the rare kid was playing high school. So UTR has kind of taken everything and shrunk it together. That being said, I just think when you have a kid that has a number next to him, don't fall in love with that number. It's like, seeing a beautiful girl and falling in love with that look. Sometimes those beautiful girls are not always, the best to have as a girlfriend. But, so for me, I think when success really started to come our way, was about finding all the right kids and putting them together. Not always the best players, but the kids that really wanted to be coached and wanted to be part of something bigger than themselves and be part of something special. And that at the end of the day, that's extremely hard to figure out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you had such great success at USC, and I was just wondering, like that whole dynasty that you built and culture that you built. What were some of the standards that you set for the team that allowed you to sort of achieve what you did?
Well, I would say this. I mean, I coached college tennis for 32 years, and hopefully I got better as I went along. But I was very fortunate. And you always have to say lucky. Fortunate, lucky, they're similar. That I recruited a few key individuals. And really one of the key individuals for all of this was Case Van Hoff, who unfortunately was never part of a national championship team. But Case brought a certain standard to the team every day. And Case and I had a very special relationship. So having that incredible relationship with one of the better players on the team was incredible, because a lot of times kids will question authority. I mean, that's how it goes. But they won't question another peer who's being very successful. So Case and I had a good relationship. Case kind of believed in what I believed in. And, Case and I actually argued a ton. But we always kind of came to an agreement, and we got it out. But and then he mentored the next kid, and he mentored the next. And, so then it was, Abdullah Magnus to Robert Farah to Steve Johnson to all these different players on down the line.
They passed it down.
Yeah, and they kept passing it down. And that was the cool thing. But you look back on every successful team, and there was that combination, that leadership combination between myself, the assistant coaches, who I had some great ones, and that very instrumental player. So that's key. You can never do it by yourself. There's just no way.
Yeah, definitely. So you're coaching Steve Johnson and Sam Query at the moment. And I was wondering, we all know about these guys. What don't we know about them? What's underrated about Steve and Sam?
Well, Sam's an extremely hard worker. You know, I've heard different things about this, but they're both very different people. And Steve and I have a relationship that goes way back, and Sam and I have a relationship that goes way back. But Stevie, you know, he has this way of winning when he plays, and they're extremely different people, have extremely different games. But, you know, when I watch Stevie play, you know, everyone always talks about his backhand, which is really a bummer.
Yeah.
And Stevie will even say this, like, hey, everybody in the world struggles with my backhand except for 30 guys.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I actually feel like Stevie should never practice with another player, because the first time you hit that backhand, you're like, what the heck am I hitting? It has so much underspin, and it's so different. And so he's like a junk ball pitcher, you know, with a bit of a fastball, and he is incredible at holding serve, and he's incredible at getting balls in play off the return. And you won't believe how many balls he gets back just by knifing them back, and it's very hard to ace him. So he holds serve, and all of a sudden it's 5-4, 30 all, and he slices a backhand or a forehand back. And the guy misses a ball.
You miss, and then he's got a break point, a set point.
And whereas Sam's just like this pitcher that just throws heat all day long, you know. But they're both guys that really want to listen, want to work. I think being a pro coach compared to being a college coach, they're two opposite ends of the spectrum. You know, and they both have their weaknesses in their game, and so myself and Mark Lucero with Stevie, you try and work on those weaknesses, but you don't necessarily talk about them. And so there's a certain style that I have as a coach. I like my players to have a complete game, and so trust me, we're doing a lot of like 2-on-1s with Sam, and he's getting his reps on approach shots, and you know, he's very good at accepting what I have to bring to the table, but also bringing up, hey, I want to do a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that. And so, you know, when you're on the court with them, it is just pure business for, you know, the hours that you are out there. And that's very different from a college guy. And they're very, very much professionals.
Yeah. And you were talking about in your presentation, the subtleties of working in what you wanted to work on with your players without necessarily bringing it up to them. Can you talk about that a little bit? I think it was excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of mentioned that a little bit. I mean, I have a unique situation now, and I really enjoy this situation where, you know, I'll work with juniors in the afternoon, and there you're kind of explaining everything to the junior, explaining it to the parent, and you're just going over everything. But like with Stevie, when we talked about working together last October, I just said, you know, we're going to work on your backhand. And you know what? We really haven't talked about it since, you know, but every day we're working on that backhand without even talking about it too much. And, you know, and he was saying, well, you know, maybe this won't work, maybe it won't. I was like, hey, look, if you can hit a few more passing shots, if you can hit a few more returns, that's great. So, you know, every day we're kind of working on those things. And it's very important that when I write up a practice plan, Mark and I share it. When I write up a practice plan with Sam, that I go over it, and it really covers all of the things that we want to work on. And so you're subtly just adding all of those things. And they're pretty good at following it, and pretty good at, okay, maybe I want to do a little bit more of this, maybe I want to do a little bit more of that. But you better have a good game plan walking out there, because those guys have been doing this for a long time, and there's no BS. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun to be out there, be on the court, and be playing for so much. You know, every match they play, literally, it's for thousands, tens of thousands.
So much pressure on
dollars. And most matches come down at that pro level to 1 to 4 points, the close matches, and having those little advantages that you've worked on in practice are key.
Yeah, that's great. I wanted to ask you about, there's probably a lot of college coaches and high school coaches that are going to watch this, and I wanted to get your opinion on setting lineups. And do you go off challenge matches, or are you more based on your judgment and what you know of a player? How do you structure that so that obviously there's always problems with where players think they should play, parents getting involved where they think their kids can play? Can you share some insight on that?
Yeah, there's usually a lot of biased opinions.
Yes.
I think early in my career, and maybe this was just a sign of the times, and it's a sign of the times now, we used to play a lot more challenge matches. And I think at the end of the day, if there's really a tight spot, you should let the kids decide it and have them go play a challenge match. And if they lose the challenge match, they really can't say anything. Yeah. And you have to give up that power a little bit. I mean, I always say my first, example or first characteristic as being a coach is be a leader. But, I think leadership has really changed over the last 30 years. And that leadership has to be really, has to include the team. So getting the opinion of your captains, bringing that all in, and, just trying to make the right decision for the team. But I think there's a lot of conspiracy theorists in the world now. Yeah. So I think making it as, unbiased, yep. And out in the front it's illegal now, but I remember once we were at national indoors and one guy was struggling at 6. And so I had my 2 other guys, they played a challenge match, and it was midnight. It was so late. It was the only time you get. And it was myself, Eric Johnson, who's now assistant coach at Cal Poly, and Jordy Vivas, who's now the assistant at Hawaii. And they'll remember this. And I'm like, all right, boys, we're playing a challenge match up to 8 because it's just too late to play 2 out of 3. And Eric won 8-6, and he went out and played the next day. And so, you have to do things like that. But
they both accept it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Putting it in their hands at the end of the day, then nobody can say you have this or you have that. And, and that's really important. But you got to take in so many different factors. And at the end of the day, your decision has to be the best for the team. And, for me as a coach, I always wanted to win. That was the most important thing. So I didn't necessarily care who was playing, but I wanted that person to have the best chance possible to give the team a W.
Yep, for sure. So we got a question from Tennis Hog. What's the best way to make a team as a true team instead of a group of individuals?
And I think this is the real difference between success and not having success, and also enjoyment and not having enjoyment. When you have a group of players that are together, it's super enjoyable. It is just a great feeling. So we started every season out as a team without tennis rackets. I wanted to get my team away from the courts. We would go to the mountains. We'd go somewhere. We'd do something different. Sometimes we'd have somebody leading us. Sometimes we wouldn't have someone leading us. We did some really incredible things over the years. One year we trained with the SEALs. Another year we trained with the Marines.
Cool.
We've done, had some really cool people work with us, and just trying to have the group come together as a group of individuals and not as a group of tennis players. And this goes back to the whole theory of what type of player are you recruiting? So on my very first recruiting call, I would try and lay out exactly what I was looking for in a player. And I wanted to put it out there. Hey, this is what I'm all about. I want to put a group of individuals together to make a great team. And if you want to be a part of that, come here and be a part of that. Yep. So that was our conversation from the very first time. And then you have to keep doing that. And we like to do, a lot of off-court activities. And in the later years, it became harder and harder and harder, I would say. But it can't be just about tennis. You have to show them as a coach that you really care about them as a whole person, as an individual, and not just a tennis player. As when I played on the team, it was so very different. But that also comes down to your captains. How well are you speaking to your captains? How well are the captains on the same page as you? But I just think getting away from the tennis court, getting away from that pecking order, because certain guys will shine in different ways. You can be up in the mountains and they got to build something.
Yeah.
And your number one player's looking at you like, I never did this. But then the
Yeah.
manager's like, I've been doing this my whole life. So he gets a lot of
For sure.
cred.
Yeah.
So, I just building the culture beyond the court. Tennis
Yeah.
with Gary, he just said that's key.
Yeah.
And at
Yeah,
the end of the day,
point.
when we won some of those NCAAs, I had people say to me like, hey, it was very obvious that you guys loved each other a great deal. And you would feel that pull. And, when Stevie was on the team, he was such a team guy and such a guy that, he and I had such a great relationship, and everyone rallied around him. So he was a great tennis player, but even more importantly, he was a better team person.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. I'm sure college kids are looking to go to college now. That's huge for them to know that, understand that.
Yeah, and when I tell, I'm always giving kids advice like, hey, pick the right coach. Don't pick the right school, because that coach is the same teacher you're going to have every day. So you better pick it carefully.
I see Riley's on there, your son. G'day, Riley.
Riley! He's in the
other room.
I said, hey, Riley, please get on this. At least we'll have one person.
Yeah.
I actually told him, I said, hey, boys, shut up. I'm doing something. We have 7 of us in this household. So it's a bigger house, but, 3 generations, 7 of us. We've learned to get along. Awesome. I try and say to everyone, all the people in the house, like, hey, we'll never experience this. I mean, hopefully we never experience this. Yeah. And really just express my concern and sympathy to everybody in the world that is just struggling with this. And Joel, thank you for doing this.
Tough.
Australians are a unique blend. And, we were just in Australia and they were struggling there with all the bushfires.
The fire's rough.
An unbelievable group of people.
Yeah.
Love them.
You guys got a ping pong table in your house? I can only imagine the ping pong battles that go on at Smith House, man. That's going to be unbelievable.
We've come full circle, because they were playing ping pong the other day, and then Tanner's like, hey, where's the wood glue? I mean, they've broken so many ping pong paddles in their life, but now they've learned to put them back together.
No way.
I'm done with you guys. I won't buy them ping pong paddles anymore. So now they're gluing them back together. I love that one.
Are you a classic plywood guy, or are you a rubber guard guy?
Come on. You can't go sandpaper. Anybody that walks on the court with a sandpaper paddle, you just know they're not very good. You got to go rubber, and you got to go spin, and you got to flick that backhand.
For sure.
And that's how it's got to be. But yeah, we have a saying in our house, quattro. You don't want to be quattro in anything. There's 3 boys and myself and
number 4.
Yeah, you do not want to be number 4, and they keep calling me quattro, and I just
man,
buy it.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna fight all the way until the grave.
Speaking of being a parent and a player, how did you balance being a coach and a parent with your kids, who are all amazing tennis players? Congrats on that, by the way. But how did you manage to balance those roles?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of different aspects there. First of all, I never wanted to be their coach. I wanted to be their father. I tried to get other people to coach them, but I never, and that was my mistake. There were very few coaches that I thought were good enough. Yeah. And my kids really wanted me to coach them. And what they really wanted was my approval. But, at the end of the day, when you're the coach, you can't be your player's best friend every day.
Yeah.
Maybe 9 out of 10 times it's positive, but some days, even though I want to be the most positive coach, you have to be that stick in their side.
Yeah. Gotta be real.
And you have to keep on pushing them. And when you're their parent, mostly they just want your approval. When they all were born, I had a little talk with them in the hospital, and I just told them all that I would be the best father that they could possibly have. And that stuck with me their whole lives. I just wanted them to think of me that I was just the best. And the other thing, when they started playing tennis, I made a very big decision that more than I wanted them to be a great player. And of course, I'm like any other parent. You want your players to be, your kids to be good at what they want to do. But I think this was the key distinction for me, was I wanted them to love tennis. So no matter what we're doing, and hey, as parents, as coaches, we fail on a daily basis, and I failed a lot. But learn from those things and move on. But every day, I just wanted them to enjoy the game. And, we were out at a private court yesterday, three of us. Riley wasn't there. The day before, we played a set of doubles. It was the first set of doubles that we've ever finished. We started a lot of sets of doubles, and I'll just tell you, not every racket made it through that set. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, look, social distancing is important, but we're on a court, we're in the house.
Yep.
We're good, and Riley and I, kind of got the W. So I'm not, but then we left, and then the police kicked Tanner and Coulter off the court, which I thought was hilarious. It was like a good skateboard video. He snuck into the backyard.
It's a rebel sport now. It's a rebel sport now.
And so, but to me, the most important thing is always have the end goal there. The end goal is so, so, so important. And making your kids enjoy the sport and making your kids love the sport. That to me that's got to guide you the whole way. And, I know we all are very competitive people, and we all get caught up in the 12 and unders or the 14 and unders and the 16 and unders. My kids were asking me about different things. I after a while, you can't remember who wins or loses things.
Yeah.
And all of that fades, and I try and get them to say that. We were playing on a private court yesterday, and I was like, hey, I played at Long Beach State, which was a mile away. I was like, one time we played a match, and we had no lights, and we had to finish, and we finished at the house right next door to this house we were playing at. Both teams came trudging over. We had 2 matches to finish, and we didn't have any lights. I mean, those were the days. And Coulter was like, who won? And I'm like, I can't even remember.
I don't even remember. In the moment, it probably meant everything, though.
Yes. But, it just some funny stories.
So there's a question here from the Little Giant, and it's Peter, it's Delau? Delau.
She's a legend, and she's got a game. She played at USC. She's on the WTA tour, and so her game's like butter, man. She's effortless.
That's high praise. She says, curious how you get a player to believe they can do great things before they actually do them. That's a good question.
I think how you speak to players, what words you use with players is so very important. A compliment goes so much harder than a criticism. I would say the perfect lesson is one where I never, ever, use anything negative. And building people up is, I think, what I try and do the best. You'll have to ask my students if I'm successful, and obviously with students, you're more successful with some, but being positive, focusing on the positives, not focusing on the negatives. With Stevie, they always talk about, oh my God, I can't hit over his backhand. I mean, that's so old, but look at all the great things he does. I mean, he does so many good things, and focusing on that while focusing on helping him, trying to improve the areas he needs to improve on, just building people up on a daily basis. And, I've heard Nadal speak, we've had kind of intimate conversations with him in a small group setting. And it's like, I had a phone call. That was hilarious. How do you become a champion? And it's more like it's just enjoying the process, making tomorrow great. And, you do that enough times in a decade, you're going to be really good. But that goes along with building people up and build them up. And I would say as parents, we focus too much on tennis. I know both of Tanner and Riley, they both did internships over the summer, and I've never seen their game improve more than when they did the internship. And they were playing the least amount of tennis because they became extremely confident as people. So don't just focus on the tennis part of the equation. I think we do that way too much. It's about building the whole person. And when people learn that they're very capable away from the court, that transfers
translates
to
to
the
the
court. And that's why
confidence.
getting good grades, doing all those other little things, those are all super important.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's important.
Everybody that I've spoken to, sorry. Everyone that I've spoken to is, they're all about the process. You know, they're all about a little bit better every day, and it really, I mean, that's something that you hear across all sports, all great athletes. It's like the destination isn't the main goal; it's the journey. And I think, you know, like I recently read, I mentioned this yesterday, Atomic Habits with James Clear, and he just talks about getting 1% better every day. And if you do that over the course of a year, you're 37 times better than when you started. And inversely, if you get 1% worse every day, you're almost back at zero. So I think that was just a really good thing to think about. You can do something every day, and I think time like this, where we're all in quarantine, many of us aren't on the tennis court, find a small way to get better off the court. It could be anything, but there's a million ways to get better every day.
Right. And I mean, that's incredible advice, but also you don't have to be perfect. You know, you just don't have to be perfect. Everybody fails. I fail on a daily basis. We do something great at dinner every night it can really bond our family. We ask everybody to speak about the best part of their day. And to me, you know, we always will say like, oh man, I'm sorry you had a bad day. You know, if they say something that's not so great. But just finding those joys every single day, but realizing none of us are perfect. And you're gonna fail, but you can't just do nothing for a week and then try and get 7 days better in one day. You got to try and make every day just a little bit better, just a little bit better, and know and be open-minded. Know you're going to take a step back, and know you're going to fail, and you're going to fall on your face. And life is nothing without failure and adversity. You always have to be trying for something, you know. And it's okay to fail. It's okay to fall straight on your face. It's okay to do those different things, but just get up and keep going forward. And so
that's good. Yeah, that's great advice. I was going to ask you so switching back to coaching specifically, how do you game plan for a player that you've never seen before?
Well, you know, I think that's a great point, because I think too much. I remember this was a long time ago. You know, Brett Macy was my assistant. We did horrible that year, horrible. And we spent our whole year game planning for other players. And we had video, and we had the best video system in the country. And we knew the other players so well. But what we didn't do that well is we didn't take care of our own players. Remember, like, the most important thing in game planning is bringing the best of you to the court, right? You've got a great serve, you got a great forehand, you got a great chip and charge, whatever you do really well, blend what you do best into the other opponent. And if you focus too much on the other person, that's not great for you in the long run. I think in every you know, look, tennis is all about holding your serve, you know. Hold your serve, hold your serve, hold your serve. And, you know, and try and find intangibles to break the other guy. But know your own game, Gary. You're on it. But you know, knowing who you are, and you'll see guys that nobody's ever heard of in the world that are top 100 in the world, and you watch them play and you go, man, that guy's not that great a tennis player. Guess what? They know how to win. They know how to use their game against their opponent's game to get the W. And not all the time it's beautiful. And so I think a lot of times juniors, you know, obviously you want to have great strokes, great technique, great grips. All of those things are important. But know what makes you tick as a person. You know, we need to do a better job, I think, teaching kids how to compete. Teach them how to compete. Competition is good for you.
Yes.
It's okay to fail. So keep going.
Yeah. I fully agree. I think like juniors, play as many practice matches as you can. Work on your game in those practice matches. I know that I don't think that my juniors play enough practice matches. Always trying to get them to do more of that.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to get a kid to, play a practice set, play baseline games, play a tiebreaker, at our academy, SC Tennis Academy, which I said from the beginning with Mitch, like, hey, we got to get these kids to compete, and they put themselves in their own group by playing up-down games and compete,
Yes.
and don't make it so bad.
Yeah.
Losing is not bad. Like, I've come to the point in my life where I feel like I'm just a competitor. I want to compete. Give me a competition.
Yeah.
And that's not bad. I don't care if I lose. Just let me compete.
That's the game, accepting that, yeah.
Yeah, we were on the court yesterday for 2 hours, and I was probably the worst on the court, which is hard for me to accept. But I was competing, and I had my small little W's. It was good. It was really good.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, game planning for the great ones, though. Everyone knows, I think Stevie played Federer. If you have to go and game plan against those guys, do you think more about their recent form or more about their historical patterns and their tendencies?
Well, that was a fail. But, I talked to a lot of people. I talked to a lot of different people, some that knew Federer extremely well.
Yeah.
I had watched Stevie play Federer twice before, both times. The last time he played him, he lost to him 6-6 at Indian Wells.
Yeah.
I watched that one on TV. I watched him play at Wimbledon, round of 16, center court. That's got to be a highlight.
Yeah.
So I had a very good understanding of Federer, but, a lot of that is how are we feeling that day, and it was a lot of fun to game plan for it. A lot of the things I talked about with Stevie were not accurate because how he was practicing was not necessarily how he was going to play that day. And so I told him a couple of things he was doing in practice, which he really didn't do too much. And at the end of the day, Stevie lost his serve to start the match, and he had a break point at 2-0. Hit a backhand winner down the line at 30-all. And so your windows against somebody like that are so very, very small.
Yeah.
But, what the great players do, well, what Federer does so well is he absolutely takes time away. I watched that match, and I actually I didn't think tennis could be played at that high a level. He played so well that day. I was just, but you need to push him off his back foot. If you're letting Fed step into the court, you're done. It's over. And depth is the killer. I've talked about that for many, many years, do a lot of drills and practice around depth. But if you can have good depth and you can get people on their back foot, you've got a chance. And that's the only way with someone like a player like that.
Yeah, they'll give you maybe some small opportunities to come forward then, I guess, huh?
Right.
You can push them back with depth.
Yes, and by taking time away, I mean taking the ball early. I don't always mean coming in. I really believe you have to have a complete game. My coach growing up, I was very fortunate that Pancho Segura was my coach. And he was the king at taking the ball early. He had a two-handed forehand. He took the ball right on the bounce. He had incredible volleys. If you can't volley well and you take the ball early and you find yourself coming into the net, you have to have the confidence to be able to hit that volley. So that's very important. If you just take the ball early and then you have no confidence at net, well, you're not going to win too many of those points because you're going to press and try and hit a winner on those.
Yeah,
but
100%.
Not giving your opponent time and using depth, those are two huge keys.
Especially probably off the return, it might be the hardest thing against some of these guys, right? Finding depth on the return.
Yes, finding depth on the return. And, the old school player that I am, I like to take the ball early on the return. But now you see guys backing up and taking huge cuts on that ball. It's impressive. My youngest son was doing that in a doubles tournament, about a month ago, and I couldn't believe how successful he was by just taking a step back and then just ripping forehands. So, yeah, combining
that's being flexible too, right? That's some days you're going to see it like a watermelon. You'll be able to stand on the baseline. Other days you won't be feeling it. You got to back up and take a bigger cut.
There's a great Aussie expression. Some days you feel like a watermelon.
Seeing it like a watermelon.
Oh, seeing it.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I feel like a watermelon a lot of days.
If you feel like a watermelon, it's not a good thing.
Movement not too high. I didn't play too well. I felt like a watermelon.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Speaking of coming into the net and net skills, do you think we need to sort of foster more doubles play with our juniors?
Well, I saw a question earlier that was like, how did I focus on doubles when I was at USC? I felt like we always had great doubles. And, I wouldn't say we played a ton of doubles. I think doubles is important, and doubles is just enjoyable, but we did a ton of drills to develop doubles skills. Putting a guy in net, offense, defense. I called it offense, defense. I stole this drill from actually reading a book about Arthur Ashe and what he did. You can only win when you're at net. You can, if you win the point and the other guy's at net, then you come to the net and you can volley. So I was always doing a lot of different drills that involved coming forward, moving, just fun drills. A lot of times we'd start practice by just doing like basic end of the drill academy drills, coaching, live ball, different things like that. Just get the guy's energy level up for 20 minutes and get them into it. Because a lot of times they walk onto the court and they're bringing their baggage and their notebooks from school on the court. And sometimes you gotta just create that energy. And so if you're doing these drills, which are doubles drills, are always fast-paced drills. That makes it a lot of fun and gets them going. At our academy now, I really think the best part about the academy is the last half hour where we're doing all these really fun doubles drills. And our academy has had so many great doubles players come out of it. And I really think that comes from this part of it where, I want the players to leave just like smiling. I had a great time. I want them to get in that car with their parents and go, oh my goodness, this was like the best. And we were doing this and we were doing that. And, and so I have a lot of fun with that. And a lot of times I always will laugh at them going, I'm actually getting paid to do this. But really enjoying it with your players, that's everything. And just having fun. So making it dynamic. And for me, being dynamic is being competitive and making it enjoyable.
Yeah, making them fun, competing. I think it all goes hand in hand, especially when you start to enjoy the competition as well. I found that the more I was competing, the less I enjoyed drills where there was nothing on the line. Just sort of hitting cross court, hitting it, down the line. If there wasn't something on the line, I wasn't as engaged.
Right, so. And we're playing losers. I do some really stupid stuff. Like you miss an overhead, you got to run 5 courts down, touch the fence, and come back before you can do it. And you just some days you got to shock them a little bit. But the losing team is doing 20 kangaroos or side lunges or whatever you're doing, and you're just trying to make a big deal, especially if the right or wrong person wins the drill, and then you're like, the underdog wins it, and you're just just having fun with it. Just
100%.
And it all starts with the coach. If the coach's not having fun, the coach isn't invested, it's just not going to work out. Butts
up's the classic. Until you start to get the serve gets too big, and then no one wants to play anymore.
Hey, we played yesterday for butts up, and I came in last, and I had 6 hit at me. Only 1 grazed me, but man, there is no feeling like with your head on the ground, just like praying, like please don't hit me, please. So, You got it. For me as a coach, even though I've done this for a long time, I really try hard to keep my tennis up, like just to stay competitive and stay in that moment. And I'm hanging on by my fingernails, but just staying there and just pushing it and just that fun. I mean, because trust me, there's nothing more your players like to is just to serve at you.
For sure, 100%. I was going to ask you, so specifically with juniors, and I know this happens in college a lot, how do you prepare your players for the times that they're going to be hooked and they're going to be cheated?
Yeah, that's tough. I that's tough. I mean, a lot of times you just can't play it that close to the line. And it's a big start of it. But you have to understand and you have to accept that this is now a part of the game. You just have to accept that. And you getting mad at a bad call, and let's face it, 50% of the time you think you got a bad call.
Yeah, you don't know.
You didn't get a bad call.
Yeah.
But sometimes and I've seen a lot of matches end before they even started because they're like, oh, that guy's such a hook. Oh, you got to be careful. First call, get an umpire. And so you're so consumed with what this guy's going to do to you, then you're not playing your game. And, people get taken out of their games way too easily. And, you miss easy overheads. You miss easy volleys. You miss easy approach shots. You miss open court forehands. S happens out there, and you got to be able to handle it, and you got to be able to blow it off. Is it easy? No, it's not always easy. Does it get personal out there? Yes, it does. But trust me, you got to keep your head. If you lose your head, you've lost. And as a coach, I mean, I think most other coaches would say this, most other players would say this. I never lost my head as a coach because I always knew there was a bigger goal at the end. And if somebody, hooks you or gives you a bad call, man, that's more fuel to the fire. Yep. It's more determination. You got to dig a little deeper. Dig.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. Going along with that, I know like college tennis is very emotional. It's very high charged. Have you noticed a big difference in how the pros manage their emotions?
Yeah, it's just a more mature. And I've noticed this many years with the pros that they, when they get that moment to win, they ramp up their energy and they ramp up that winning mentality right away, which isn't as obvious in college. College, there's a lot of cheering, there's a lot of bluster, but guys are in a pro match, they're conserving their energy a lot better than in college. And they're a lot smarter. But internally, when they have that opportunity, you can see their body language change. You can see their energy change on the court. It's very, very, very different.
Just being able to narrow their focus on the bigger points.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you can suggest that players can do to help to, I guess, channel their concentration? Concentration is huge in tennis, especially at the highest levels where you lose concentration for a minute, you've lost your serve, you lose the set. Is there anything that you can do to stay charged and concentrated?
I really believe that tennis is, you're going to have bad moments on the court, and you have to accept that tennis is a very imperfect sport. I mean, I saw this stat yesterday, the last whatever, or maybe it was lifetime, Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, they were all like 54 to 55%. It was like this incredible, they've all won like basically 55% of their points. That's just crazy.
Yes.
That they're not more dominant, right?
100%.
That they're just, and so, I always say there's never been a perfect tennis match. Never. And there never probably will be a perfect tennis match. And so you have to accept that you're a very imperfect person, imperfect human, playing a very imperfect sport. And the moment you accept that, that's the moment where you really say, okay, I'm gonna miss this shot. I'm gonna miss that shot. And I've played tennis long enough and had enough success that I can tap into the good things I've done on the court. And, you know I'm always 1 or 2 points, 1 or 2 games, or even a set away from playing my best tennis
Yeah.
if I keep my right attitude. That's a lot harder for a junior to do because they're a little too worried about what other people are thinking about them. But I always felt like, yeah, people think about you, but they think about you and then they forget it and they move on.
Yeah.
Especially in this world.
Yeah, juniors especially, they're always riding the roller coaster. A great point, they're really high, and then at a bad point, they're really low. And I was speaking with Craig O'Shaughnessy about that 55% statistic, where if you win 55% of the points in a match, you typically win around 6-3, 6-3. And that's great to know, because you have a bad point or you have a bad game, and you can put that in the 45% column and go back to focusing on the 55. That's something I really wish that I knew when I was growing up, because everybody's trying to be perfect, and just to your point, no one is.
I mean, yeah. I think the scoring system, sometimes you can't really figure out what you're doing in tennis, but like if you're playing an 11-point baseline game, and I've never thought of this before, but if you're playing an 11-point baseline game and you win 55% of the points, what is that? You've won the game 11-8, 11-9, 11-7. That's close.
Yeah, it is close.
The baseline game, or even like a 21-point ping pong service style game. It's like.
But that feels comfortable.
21-17, and you're thinking, when you're the 17, you're thinking, wow, I played really good. I was right there. I was
exactly.
points away from winning. But in our scoring system, one break a serve, I know we played, like I played in the kids doubles the other day. I wouldn't be talking about this as much if I hadn't won, but
you got to take it while you can, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, I was like, hey, you guys are upset you lost, but we played one ad, which I really like that scoring format.
Yep.
And we won. We broke their serve on the very first game on a one ad point. Right. So, that's it was very, very close. So if we had kept score, it would have been, 21-19, which probably everyone would have been comfortable with. But it was, at the end of the day, it was 6-4.
Yeah.
So.
How does the pressure dynamic change now with college tennis at no ad scoring? And how can we prep young players going into college for this? Because it's obviously totally different. Yeah,
it's really a lot different. It's almost too different. And it changes, like the 15-30 point is now so important. The 30-15, the 40-30 point, all of these things. It's every point, and in that way, it's a good thing. Like, every point is so very, very valuable. You can't take points off. And holding your serve and having a good return, those are all extremely important things to have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to watch those matches. The returner gets to 30, and it's immense pressure on the server right away.
Right.
I was actually, here we got a question here. Hey guys, great talk. Can you talk about fitness for kids?
Well, I think, at the end of the day, I always say, if I had to do it over with my kids, I don't like to put it that way, but I like to say, what will I do with my grandkids? Because, hopefully my grandkids want to hang out with me, and, I would have them warm up better every day. I think too many times kids don't learn the proper warm-up techniques. Good dynamic warm-up. What are you doing to get your body ready to now play a very, what doesn't look like it is, but it's a very violent sport on your shoulder.
Yep.
It's very violent, and that doesn't show up till kids are around 15 or 16. So having the proper equipment, warming up every day, and then the cool down is so important. All of these things have to be done on the court. I mean, how many times do I teach a lesson and kids, are like with the parents, I'll stretch when I get home. Yeah. Now I've made it the point where I just stretch the last 5 minutes of lessons, and I make sure they're doing it right. But after a few times, I get to stretch with them also. So we both get down there and stretch. But I think the best thing for fitness is just playing other sports.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You know, I mean, we can run, and we do a lot of running, and we do different things at our academy. But at the end of the day, you know, go play ultimate frisbee, go play soccer, go play basketball. I think doing those other sports teaches the most important thing that a lot of our juniors don't have, which is athleticism.
Yeah.
And you see this at the top sport, and that's why some of the Europeans are so good, is they're so good in soccer.
Yeah.
They're incredibly gifted in soccer. And soccer is a sport that has a lot of dimensions, and it has no right, it has no left. You're playing both sides of the body there. And
multi-positional as well.
yes. And it has so many, you know, our youngest played a lot of soccer, Coulter, and, you know, but all my kids played a ton of sports.
Yeah.
And if you look at the best players that are playing right out there, Taylor Fritz was playing lacrosse. No, was it lacrosse? Yeah, it was lacrosse.
I think it was lacrosse.
Yeah, in 10th grade. Roddick played basketball in high school. Sam Querrey was playing a lot of ultimate frisbee. Stevie played every single sport you could think of.
Yeah.
You know, he was a great golfer, great pitcher. He could do a lot of different things. And, you know, teaching them that different athleticism is so very key to becoming a good player. And trust me, it's not your 12 and under or 14 and under ranking.
Yes. And you were saying building habits for preparing your body and cooling your body down. That's really, it's huge.
Yes. Kale,
yeah.
I see that you hate soccer, but that comes through in how good an athlete you are, Kale. Should have played more soccer in Tulsa.
That's hilarious. You picked that one up, huh? Yeah, you look at some of these guys with their foot skills on the tour, and you'll flick the tennis ball up no problem, and everyone is amazed by that. But I feel like every good tennis player can do those things.
Yeah, no, it is truly amazing what those guys can do with their footwork. I was watching this video of Steve Nash the other day.
Yeah.
Now I kind of remember what a good soccer player he was. He was doing these incredible things with the soccer ball. It was just amazing. Yeah. And he plays a little tennis in LA. And he's not a bad tennis player. But, you know, what a good athlete that guy is.
For sure. I had sort of one more question for you, and it's a big one. But what is one thing that stands out that you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger?
Yeah, you know, I think what changed as I grew up is I would say learning to love, learning to, you know, that's kind of this goofy thing, but what do you love about this person? What do you love about this part of the game? You know, what do you love about tennis? You know, I think learning to love is always about finding the positives in other people and in different things. I mean, this is a horrible time we're going through, and last night we you know, my mom's in hospice. It's a really, really, really tough time for our family. We're going through all these things, but my wife Tammy and I were driving back from my mom's place last night, and I said, you know, we got to drive down this street. And we drove down this street, and there's probably 50 to 80 restaurants. It's just right near and everything was black and dark, and it's just it's like at the end, I was like ready to cry to think how many people this is hurting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to find the positives in this, which is extremely hard. But, you know, and we're fortunate that we have a roof over our head, and, you know, we're not so worried about day-to-day things. Yeah. But, you know, just finding that joy in this. And, you know, yesterday, Coulter and I built a closet together. And it was by far the funnest part of our day. We had a great time building this closet. And now it's, you know, we have more people living in this house than we ever thought we would. We thought we'd have 5. Now we have 7. But just finding that positive and that beautiful part of it. And, you know, you see all of these things, and you're reading some of these things about the situation we're in right now. But you see so many families out walking, riding bikes, doing things together. You know, I think as humans, I hope we never ever forget this time, because reconnecting on that level is so very important.
Yeah, trying to make something positive out of it. That's why I really started doing this week, is just trying to get something out of this downtime. And so, you know, I really appreciate you giving up your time like this to come on and talk to me, because I know a lot of people are going to watch this and take a lot out of it. So
yeah, well, I have an Instagram, Coach Peter Smith. If
follow
anybody has any questions, you can message me on there. You know, I'm not saying I'm the most socially adept person, and I'm more on Insta than I am on Twitter. But, you know, anytime I can help anyone, and you know, I know there were a bunch of incredible questions that came up here. If you don't feel like you got your question answered, just send one of us you know, a message on that, and I know I'll get back to you. But yeah, Joel, what you're doing in tennis, you know, I'm sorry we didn't get to spend more time together in La Jolla. Talk about a beautiful place.
Yes.
Well, you live on Coronado. I spent a summer on Coronado. That is,
I coach
that might be better than La Jolla. That's pretty good.
It's nice. I don't live in Coronado, but I coach in Coronado, so I do enjoy the drive over and back. But
yeah, that bridge is special.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I grew up in La Costa. I went to high school in La Costa, North County, San Diego, and you know, San Diego's just the most special place in the world, I think. So it's really cool.
I came for college. I never went home.
Yeah. Kind of what happened to me. I grew up in Connecticut. We moved out here when I was 14. I haven't been back to Connecticut. Not interested.
It's awesome. But yeah, mate, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to talk to you, and we'll stay in touch. Hopefully, maybe we can do this again another time.
Yeah, let's do it on court. Do whatever. Anytime I can help, Joel. Thank you for what you're doing for tennis. This is really cool. And you know, I was like, okay, how is this going to work? But it's been an incredible experience. So thanks.
It went nearly out an hour. That went so quickly. I thank you for letting me pick your brain.
That's crazy. I was like, oh God, you know, it's always like, what are you going to talk about? I got nothing to say.
You got everything to say, man. You got everything. So, you know, it's easy. It's really great to speak to a great tennis mind like you, and a really good person and dad. So thank you so much.
Well, there are so many people on Instagram that I've learned so much from. I just saw Tennis House was on. I mean, I almost feel like he started this all like 6-8 months ago, and he was the first. So I've never met him. I've messaged him, but just publicly to say thank you to him, man. What a great job he's done.
Sure.
And you know, so there you know, 5 or 6 people, and I don't know if the guts or whatever it is to do it, or you know, it's you know,
it's easy, man. It's easy.
Yeah.
But we really appreciate it. So have a good day, and hopefully you and your family are safe, and get on the ping pong table.
All the best to everybody. Yes, ping pong table. Got to do it. Thank you, Joel. Thank you for
See you, Peter. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.